Google DeepMind created AlphaGo, and in the game of Go, the machine beat the human, taking some actions that humans did not expect would be winning solutions. And so I think that's sort of an analogy for potential of AI today, at least for me, in terms of how I think about it and how exciting it can be, is yes, it may be pattern recognition, but it may find solutions that humans cannot, and that may even look alien to humans, to maybe borrow a little bit of Peter's excitement about the space. So in thinking about the future, I'd love to hear about, what are your plans or goals or vision when you work in the space? Maybe we'll start with you, Roger, in terms of some of your workflows, or what you hope to accomplish, maybe in a general way, and maybe some of the multi-step things you're thinking about to execute some of those tasks.
Yeah, sure. The vision is to have an AI assistant, if you will, that can manage projects from start to finish. So, like, for example, on our data science team, the bulk of our work is working directly with investment teams on deep dives, fundamental deep dives on companies. We have alternative data sets, call it credit card data, job postings, Google search data, et cetera. And we'll use those to try to, find linkages to KPIs, either for predictive, predictive analysis, or to do some long-term trend analysis. These types of projects often, they're usually inbound from a PM asking a question about a company. It could be generic. What do you have in your data sets that can help? Or, management said this on the conference call. There's nothing to verify or track what they're saying. Do any of your data sets? Would you be able to provide some insights? And so then that sets off a process on our team where we're trying to. It's manual, but there's a lot of patterns to the process, and a lot of it is not that different from the prior project. But you're trying to, use maybe 2 or 3 of the data sets to find some correlations, to report KPIs, and ultimately you're coming back with a PowerPoint, a couple of slides with charts and very succinct sort of conclusions. And I have every expectation that we'll eventually be able to have an AI kind of step through that process as we embed sort of the domain knowledge and build sort of basic process steps, provide it with functions to execute a lot of the standard processes, so it's not rebuilding them every time. And so I'd say we have chunks of that working today. We're doing the same thing that you are with multiple AIs, guiding each other, checking answers. What's really interesting is if you put a prompt in, and I'll shut up, and you look at the response. If you put it in again, right, most of the time you're gonna see slightly different answers every time. And so when you go through this sort of one-shot, two-shot approach, right, that first response, you then ask a question, you're highly dependent on whatever answer you got there. Was it the best one? Is there a better one out there? Is maybe some consensus of all of them a better one? So we have functionality that does that now. We'll spew that out, and you get like 25 responses, and either take the best one or do get a consensus view on the best response. Do it with list generation. If you want to get topics out of a document, right? Usually we're not going to get more than 10 when you ask for it. There could be 20 good ones. If you ask 10 times and you take the sum of all the different topics you got and count up the number of respondents that gave the same ones and where they ranked them, you can start coming up with some pretty complete lists.
Yeah, great, that's interesting. How about you, Peter?
Well, as I said, you mentioned the Go example.
Yeah.
All I would say is that even a relative optimist like me gets surprised on the upside constantly. I mean, that paper that came out the other day just completely blew my mind. I'm chess, not a Go player. There's a new algorithm out that plays chess at a not as IM level, but maybe 2700 with no search. Like, that just stunned me. Like, it literally just feeds the position in, looks at legal moves, takes the best one. So without doing any look ahead, all the obvious stuff, it's starting to play at that level. I mean, a year ago, I think the best computer that could do that was maybe a 2000 level, something like this, and all of a sudden they've just taken this like 600-700 ELO leap without doing search. It's absolutely astonishing. So never say never.
Got it, great. And Richard, I don't know, in terms of your thoughts in the future, are you thinking about integrating your current AI work into your sentiment product? Is that something separate, or anything else you're thinking about as it relates to AI for the future?
Yeah, I think as Roger said, the AI will definitely be used in the financial world. I think there's 100, 200,000 human analysts that might be a little concerned about their jobs going forward because of the ability to synthesize so much information so quickly. So I think that's a real threat to the financial employment in the financial industry. At the same time, it's the human analyst's ability to find the needle in the haystack, to look across models. So the creativity of analysts is going to become much more valuable, and I think that's true of all of us. We have to be creative, we have to be thoughtful and curious. But I also think Peter touched on something important. There's a kind of a philosophical element here where Elon Musk, for example, said that his model, based on looking at videos from the Teslas, was able to learn to read without any input of actual language. So using a large language model input on video, it learned to read and communicate. So that's interesting. Something about the physical representation of the world is reflected in our language, maybe in our brain structure. And I think some of these insights going forward are going to teach us more about what it means to be human. How do we improve education for ourselves? How do we actualize, and my doctor there is, I'm a psychiatrist by training, so here we go, right?
Okay.
But how do we become, more human, actually, by, it's just the transition that's happened through the Industrial Revolution. Our grandparents who had to work in factories on assembly lines. Now it's becoming much more a world of creativity and allowing these models to offset even what seem to be complex reasoning. So it's going to be a really interesting world, and I think in the next decade will transform how we understand ourselves and many of the systems we live in.